The wind moved slowly across the empty alien battlefield, carrying blue dust into the air like quiet ghosts. For thousands of years, no one had walked on this land. Broken metal lay half buried in the sand, and strange alien statues stood like silent watchers. Everything felt cold, forgotten, and dead. But Arya, a young alien warrior, walked forward with steady steps. Her people had sent her on an important mission. She was searching for the sacred sword, the legendary weapon of her ancestors. A weapon that once glowed like a living star and protected her world from great danger. Now the sword was lost, and without it, her people believed they would fall. Arya felt fear in her chest, but she did not show it. She was strong, trained, and proud. Her silver eyes scanned the ruins as she moved broken stones with her hands. Her long dark hair blew behind her, and her armor made a soft ringing sound with every step. Deep inside the ruins, she felt something. A pull, a whisper, a quiet call. She followed the feeling until she found a large stone covered in old symbols. Arya pushed it aside with great effort, and there it was, the sacred sword, lying in the dust like a sleeping creature. Her heart jumped. She knelt down and slowly picked it up. The metal was cold, completely silent. No light, no power, no warmth. Legends said that the sword glowed only when held by a worthy soul. Arya wanted to believe she was worthy, so she lifted it high. Waiting for even a small spark, nothing happened. The blade stayed dead in her hands. A heavy sadness filled her. She had trained her whole life. She had fought enemies stronger than her. She had promised her people she would bring the sword home. But she felt like she had failed before the real journey even began. Arya closed her eyes to calm herself. When she opened them again, she felt something strange. A presence, someone watching her. She turned sharply, raising the sword defensively, even though it was not glowing. Her eyes locked onto a figure standing at the edge of the ruins. It was a human, a man in simple explorer gear, dusty and tired. His name was Daniel. But Arya did not know that yet. To her, he was only a stranger. And humans were not welcome here. "Stay back," Arya said with a cold, strong voice. Her people believed humans caused trouble and brought weakness. She had never seen one in person, but she had heard many stories. None of them good. Daniel raised his hands slowly, showing he had no weapon. "I'm just lost," he said softly. "I don't want trouble." Arya didn't believe him. She stepped forward, the dead sword in her hand. Daniel took one step closer too, only to explain himself, and then something impossible happened. The sword trembled, a tiny vibration, like a heartbeat waking up after a long sleep. Arya froze. The sword had never reacted to her. Not once, but now. It reacted to him, a human? Daniel looked confused. Arya looked shocked. Her hand tightened around the hilt. The sword trembled again, stronger this time. Arya stepped back, her voice unsteady for the first time. "What did you do?" She whispered. She could not accept the idea. The sacred weapon of her people reacting to someone like him. Daniel shook his head. "I didn't do anything," he said quietly. "But what is that thing?" Arya did not answer. She didn't want to speak the truth out loud. The sword should react only to her own kind, not humans, never humans. She stared at Daniel with a mix of confusion and fear. If the sword was responding to him, then everything she believed about her ancestors, her people, and her own destiny might be wrong. A gentle pulse of light appeared inside the blade. Very soft, almost invisible, but it was real. And Arya felt her heart stop for a moment. Daniel took another step forward. The light grew brighter. Now Arya's fear turned into something deeper, a mystery. Something connected to the oldest history of her people. Something she never learned in training. Something hidden from her. Something dangerous. The wind became stronger. Lifting blue dust around them, the world suddenly felt alive. Something ancient had awakened. Arya lowered the sword slightly, her voice barely a whisper. "Why you?" she said. Why would the sword choose a human? Daniel did not understand the importance of her words, but he understood the fear in her eyes, and somewhere, deep in the shadows of the ruins, another pair of eyes watched them, an enemy waiting for the right moment. An enemy who knew exactly what the glowing sword meant. The ancient power had returned, and the galaxy would soon feel its rise again. Arya stood in silence, holding the sword as the soft glow faded again. It was still weak, still unsure, like a sleeping creature trying to wake. Daniel kept his distance, confused and nervous. He did not understand this world or this strange weapon. But one thing was clear to him. Arya was scared, not of him, but of what the sword did when he came close. Arya tried to hide her fear behind a cold warrior expression. She did not want a human to see her weakness. Her people always said humans were emotional and soft. She could not let that idea become true about herself. "Do not move," she said again. Her voice was firm, but her hands were shaking slightly. She had spent her whole life believing only an alien of her race could awaken the sacred sword. Seeing a human trigger, it broke every rule she knew. Daniel raised his hand slowly. "As I said, I don't want trouble," he spoke gently. Trying not to anger her, he could feel how tense she was. One wrong step, and she might attack him. Not because she hated him, but because she was afraid of what he represented. Arya stepped closer, studying him carefully. His clothes were torn, his boots covered in dust. He looked tired, lost, and far from dangerous. Yet the sword reacted to him. That meant he was important to something ancient, something powerful. "What are you doing here?" Arya asked. Daniel sighed. "My ship crashed. I was looking for a way out of this desert." Arya didn't believe him fully, but she sensed no danger in his voice, and the sword. It reacted to him in a way that could not be ignored. She turned the blade slightly and looked at the metal. Still dull, still mostly silent, but somehow connected to him. That meant she could not send him away. Not yet. Arya lowered the sword, but only a little. "You will come with me," she said. Daniel blinked, surprised. "I will what?" "You will walk with me," she repeated. "The sword reacts to you." "I must understand why." Daniel frowned. "I just want to find my ship." Arya shook her head. "That is not important now. The sword chooses who it chooses." Daniel looked frustrated, but he could tell that refusing her was dangerous. She was a trained warrior. He had no chance to escape in this strange land. "Fine," he said quietly. "I'll follow you. But I don't know how to help you." Arya did not respond. She only walked ahead. She moved with grace and strength. Daniel followed, reluctant, confused, unsure of what fate had pulled him into. As they walked deeper into the ruins, Arya kept glancing at the sword. It stayed silent when she held it. But when Daniel walked closer to her, a faint glow returned, soft like moonlight. It confused her every time. Arya finally stopped and turned to him. "Hold out your hand," she said. Daniel hesitated. "Why?" "I need to test something." Her voice left no room for argument. Daniel slowly extended his hand. Arya placed the sword in his palm, and the moment he touched it, the blade lit up with a bright silver pulse, soft but clear. "Alive," Arya gasped. Even Daniel stepped back in shock. The sword felt warm now. Almost breathing, it hummed gently, like it recognized his touch. This is impossible," Arya whispered. Her eyes were wide. Her entire life's teachings were falling apart. Daniel stared at the glowing sword. His hand shook slightly. "I'm not doing anything," he said. "It's just reacting." Arya pulled the sword back quickly. The glow faded as soon as she held it. Her heart beat fast. This human was tied to her ancestors in some way she could not understand. She needed answers. She needed history. She needed truth. "We go to the ancient temple," Arya said. "There. The walls will tell us more." Daniel nodded slowly. "Fine. Lead the way." Before they could move, Arya suddenly turned her head. Her warrior instincts felt something. A shadow in the distance. A presence hiding behind broken pillars. Her hand went to her dagger. She stepped in front of Daniel to protect him. "Someone is following us," she whispered. Daniel looked around nervously. "I don't see anyone." Arya kept her eyes sharp, her voice low. "You won't." They hide well. The air felt heavier. The ruins felt alive again. Someone or something was watching them. Waiting, studying, "Come," Arya said quietly. "We must move fast." Daniel followed her, a glowing sword still in her hand. Both of them unaware that a dangerous enemy had already begun to track them. The enemy knew the sword had awakened, and they would not allow its power to return without a fight. The journey to the ancient temple had begun, but so had the hunt. Arya and Daniel moved quickly through the quiet ruins. The wind carried soft blue dust behind them as they walked deeper into the ancient land. The shadows felt alive every few minutes. Arya stopped and scanned the area with sharp eyes. She could still feel the presence of someone following them, but the enemy stayed hidden, patient. Waiting for the perfect moment, Daniel tried to stay calm. But every sound made him jump a little. He was not a soldier. He was not a fighter. He was just a human explorer who wanted to find his ship. Yet somehow, a legendary alien sword reacted to him, and now he was walking beside a warrior who didn't fully trust him. Arya ignored his fear and kept her focus on the path. She knew where they needed to go, the ancient temple of Orinth. It was the only place with carvings and records older than her own people. Only the temple held the truth about the sacred sword's origins. Their journey took hours. They climbed stone hills, crossed broken bridges, and passed through fields of glowing plants that hummed softly under their feet. Daniel looked around with wide eyes. Everything felt beautiful, but dangerous. He felt like he was walking inside a forgotten history. Arya finally spoke after a long silence. "You must understand something," she said. "My people believe the sword belongs only to us." Daniel looked at the blade in her hand, now quiet and dim. "But it glowed when I held it," he said softly. Arya's jaw tightened. "Yes, and that is why everything is wrong." She looked away. "It should not have chosen a human." Daniel felt a pinch of sadness. "I didn't choose it either," he said. "I don't want to take anything from your people." Arya slowed her steps. Her eyes softened for a moment. "I know," she said quietly, "but the sword chose you. And that changes everything." They reached a tall, dark structure rising out of the sand. Massive stone pillars circled it like giant guards. The ancient temple. Deep inside, forgotten lights still glowed on the walls. Carvings covered every inch of stone. Old symbols of battles, strange creatures, and warriors holding the sacred sword. Arya walked forward with respect. This temple was older than her entire civilization. Only the strongest warriors were allowed to enter, but today she was not alone. A human walked beside her, something no ancestor had imagined. Daniel touched a wall lightly. The stone responded with a soft hum. A symbol lit up under his fingertips. Arya gasped. "That should not happen," she whispered. "No outsider can activate these symbols." Daniel pulled his hand back in surprise. "I didn't mean to," he said. "I just touched it." Arya stepped forward and touched the same symbol. Nothing happened. No glow, no energy. Her face changed. It was the first time she truly understood the truth. The sword reacted to him, because he was connected to this place in ways she could not explain. She walked deeper into the temple, until she reached a giant wall filled with carvings. The center showed an alien and a human standing together, both holding the sacred sword, both fighting beside each other. Arya stared at it in shock. This is not what our stories say," she whispered. "We were told humans were weak. We were told we created the sword alone." Daniel stepped beside her. "What does it mean?" he asked. Arya touched the carving of the human figure. Her fingers trembled. "It means humans helped forge the sword," she said slowly. "It means our ancestors worked together. It means your bloodline is tied to this weapon." Daniel shook his head. "That's impossible. I'm just an explorer." Arya looked at him. "No," she said firmly. "You are something more." Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the temple. Arya's instincts went sharp in an instant. She turned, sword in hand, eyes locked on the shadows. The hidden enemy was no longer hiding. A tall, armored creature stepped into the light. Its glowing red eyes stared at Arya and Daniel with hunger and hatred. Its voice was deep and rough. "Finally, the sword shows its light." Daniel stepped back, fear taking over. Arya moved in front of him with her blade raised. "Stay behind me," she ordered. The enemy warrior smiled. "Do you think you can protect him?" "The sword belongs to us now." Arya tightened her grip. "You will not touch him," she said. "He is the key to awakening the blade." Daniel felt his heart pound. He didn't want to be the key. He didn't want to be part of a prophecy. But danger was right in front of them, and running was no longer an option. The enemy took a step forward. Arya stood her ground. The temple walls glowed brighter, responding to the ancient energy inside the sword. This was no simple fight. This was the beginning of a war over a power that had slept for 5,000 years. Daniel finally understood. He was not here by accident. Fate had brought him to the sword. And now the enemy wanted it too. A battle was coming. And the truth of the sword was only the beginning. The enemy warrior stepped forward with slow, heavy movements. His armor made a low grinding sound, and his red eyes glowed like fire in the dark temple. Daniel felt his legs shake. He had never seen a creature like this, tall, armored, dangerous, a living nightmare walking toward them. Arya moved in front of Daniel like a shield, her body low, her grip tight on the sacred sword. Even though the blade was quiet in her hands, she was ready to fight. The enemy laughed, a deep, cruel sound that echoed through the stone hall. "You cannot win, little warrior," he said. "The sword will glow only for the human." Arya's jaw tightened. "I don't need it to glow to defeat you," she replied. But deep inside, she knew this fight was different. She needed Daniel, and she needed the sword awakened. The enemy charged. Arya blocked the first blow with the dull blade. The impact shook her whole body. Sparks flew across the floor. Daniel stumbled back in fear. He had no weapon, no training, no idea what to do. "Daniel!" Arya shouted, "Stay behind me." But the enemy was powerful. He struck again, forcing Arya to slide across the stone floor. Her arm burned from the force. She gritted her teeth and pushed herself up. She could not fall. Not now. The enemy swung his massive blade again. Arya dodged, rolled, and countered with a fast strike, but her sword hit his armor and bounced off. Still dead, still silent, still powerless. Daniel watched helplessly, his fear growing with every second. Arya was strong, but she could not win this alone. The enemy noticed Daniel's panic. He smiled cruelly and turned toward him. "You are the key," he growled. "So you will come with me." Daniel backed away fast. "No, stay away," he said, but the enemy advanced. Step by step, ready to grab him. Arya reacted instantly. She dashed forward and slashed at the enemy's leg. He roared in pain, but the attack was not deep enough. He turned and threw Arya across the room with one powerful strike. She hit the ground hard, dust rising around her. "Arya!" Daniel cried. She tried to stand, but her breathing was heavy. The enemy moved toward Daniel again, each step shaking the floor. Daniel felt trapped. He looked at Arya injured, fighting for breath. He looked at the enemy closing in fast, and then his eyes fell on the sacred sword. It lay on the floor where Arya dropped it. Silent, cold, but he knew the truth now. The sword awakened only for him. His heart pounded. He did not want to be a hero. He did not want this responsibility. But Arya needed him. The sword needed him. Daniel ran toward the blade. The enemy turned sharply. And oh! The creature roared. Daniel grabbed the sword, and the blade exploded with light. A bright, powerful silver glow filled the entire temple. The walls lit up with ancient symbols. Arya shielded her eyes with her arm. Even the enemy stepped back, startled. The sword hummed loudly now, alive, awake, full of energy. Daniel felt warmth run through his arm. Strength he never knew was possible. Arya stared at him, amazed. He held the weapon like it belonged to him, like it had been waiting for him for 5,000 years. The enemy roared and charged toward Daniel, but this time Daniel did not back away. He raised the glowing sword. The blade shined brighter. And when the enemy struck, Daniel blocked the attack with surprising power. The shockwave blasted dust into the air. Daniel's hands shook. But he stayed standing. The sword guided him, moved with him, protected him. Arya got to her feet and joined the fight. Now with Daniel's glowing sword. The temple itself came alive. Light raced across the walls. Symbols lit up like stars. The enemy swung wildly. But Daniel dodged with new instinct. He was not trained. But the sword seemed to teach him in each moment. Arya attacked from the side. Daniel attacked from the front. Together, they pushed the enemy back, step by step, strike by strike. The enemy screamed in anger. "You cannot stop me." Daniel's voice was steady now. "Yes, we can." With one final combined strike, Daniel's glowing blade and Arya's warrior strength, they hit the enemy's armor with full force. A burst of silver light filled the temple. The enemy fell to the ground with a heavy crash, defeated but not dead. He growled and crawled backward into the shadows. "This is not over," he whispered. Then he vanished into the darkness. Silence filled the temple. Daniel dropped to his knees. Exhausted, Arya walked toward him slowly. She looked at the glowing sword, then at him. "You awakened it," she said softly. "You are the one the legend spoke of." Daniel shook his head, breathing hard. "I'm not a legend," he said. "I'm just a person who wants to go home." Arya looked at him with new respect. "The galaxy will not let you walk away now," she said. "The sword has chosen you." Daniel stared at the glowing blade in his hand. He knew she was right. Everything had changed. And this battle was only the beginning. A silver glow of the sacred sword slowly softened as Daniel held it in his shaking hands. The temple was quiet now. Dust floated gently in the air. The echo of battle fading into silence, Daniel breathed heavily, staring at the blade that still hummed softly like a living heart. Arya stepped closer, her armor scratched and dust-covered. But her eyes were calm, now almost gentle. She looked at Daniel with a new kind of respect, something she had never felt toward a human before. "You stood your ground," Arya said softly. "You fought with honor." Daniel shook his head, trying to catch his breath. "I wasn't fighting with skill," he said. "The sword. It kept guiding me." Arya nodded. "Yes, it accepts you," she replied. "It sees you as its bearer now." Daniel looked down at the glowing weapon. He felt small and unprepared. He had never been a soldier. He had never been chosen for anything great. Yet here he was, holding a legendary weapon that had slept for thousands of years. Arya walked to the center of the temple and touched the carvings on the wall, symbols of humans and aliens together. Symbols of unity, symbols of shared strength. Symbols her people had forgotten. "My people erased this history," she said quietly. "We were told humans were weak, but the truth was hidden. Because some feared what unity could create." Daniel walked beside her. "So the sword was made by both of our ancestors?" he asked. Arya nodded. "Yes, humans and my people forged it together. It carries two powers. And two destinies." She turned to face him fully, her expression serious but warm. "You are the missing half," she said. "And that is why it glows only for you." Daniel felt a heavy weight settle on his shoulders. He didn't want to be a savior. He didn't want to be a chosen one. He only wanted to survive and return home. But now the galaxy had other plans. Before Daniel could respond, a deep tremor shook the ground. The defeated enemy's growl echoed faintly from far away. He was not dead, only driven back, and he would not stop. Arya closed her eyes for a moment. She understood the danger. "The enemy now knows the sword is awake," she said. "They will come for it." "And for you," Daniel swallowed hard. "So what do we do?" Arya looked toward the temple entrance. Sunlight broke through the dust outside, lighting the path ahead. "We return to my home city," she said. "The council must see this. They need to know the old alliance can rise again." Daniel hesitated. "Your people don't like humans," he said softly. Arya gave a small, sad smile. "They will have to learn. The sword has spoken." They walked out of the temple together, the glowing blade lighting the way with a gentle pulse. Each step felt heavier to Daniel. He was no longer a simple explorer. He was the bearer of a forgotten power outside the temple. Arya sent a signal flare into the sky. A long, bright beam of blue light rose into the air. Within minutes, alien ships in the distance began moving toward them. Daniel watched them with wide eyes. He felt nervous standing beside Arya. Her people were warriors, strong, proud, serious. How would they react when they saw him holding their sacred weapon? The first ship landed softly on the sand. 3 alien elders stepped out, their faces lined with age and wisdom. Arya bowed deeply. "The sword is awakened," she said. "The chosen bearer stands before you." The elders looked at Daniel, shocked, confused, even angry, their eyes locked on the sword glowing in his hands. "This cannot be," one elder whispered. "A human?" Arya stood firm. "Yes," she replied strongly. "The sword chose him." Daniel felt exposed under their sharp eyes. But he did not let go of the blade. It felt warm in his hand, almost comforting. The eldest of the 3 stepped forward slowly, his voice deep and steady. "For 5,000 years we waited for the sword to wake, and now it has chosen. A human." He looked deeply into Daniel's eyes. "You carry the burden of 2 civilizations," he said. "You are the bridge between our worlds." Daniel took a slow breath. "I don't know if I'm ready," he said honestly. The elder placed a hand on his shoulder. "No one is ready," he answered. "Legends do not begin with courage. They begin with fear. And a choice." Arya stepped beside Daniel, her presence calm and strong. "You will not face this alone," she said. "I will walk with you." Daniel looked at her. For the first time, he felt hope. The sword glowed brighter. As if agreeing with their promise, the elder turned toward the distant horizon. A dark cloud of enemy ships began forming far away. Red lights flickered within the smoke. "They are coming," he said. "And the galaxy will soon need its new protector." Daniel tightened his grip on the sword. He felt fear, but also purpose. Arya stood at his side, her eyes sharp and ready. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "A new legend starts today," Daniel nodded. The silver blade shined one last time, bright and powerful. The human and the alien warrior stepped forward together, toward danger, toward destiny, toward the future the sword had chosen for them, and so a new story began, a story the galaxy had forgotten, a story now alive again, in the hands of a human no one expected.